But, Marcus, I want to ask you straight up. What were you doing when you watched the game last night? What did you think of how things unfolded against the Hornets?
I watched the majority of it. I think I missed a little bit in the middle. But, they looked like a team that hadn't played basketball in about a week. I mean, they just looked sloppy, ton of turnovers. I think they had 9 turnovers in the first quarter. Just a lot of missed shots. They just looked out of sync more than anything. One thing that I mentioned to Greg before the show, having watched Luka now a couple of times since he's come over to the Lakers, it feels like he is pressing to have that big moment.
I would agree.
He wants to have that big game, that big welcome to LA stamp. And I sense that he's pressing. Now I'm not worried about Luka. It's only been a couple of games. He missed 20 some odd games with an injury. So he's still sort of working himself back in, but I just sense he wants to make that special pass or hit that big three. It hasn't happened yet. And I think that's sort of some of what we've seen the last couple of games where they're all sort of trying to give Luka space to become Luka, and it hasn't quite happened.
I agree, and I also feel that I don't want to say that the team overplayed this, but I do think that there's a different element to a mid-season trade that is the blockbuster of the league than it is to say a free agent signing or something that happens before the season.
Yeah.
Because there was still, when he arrived, I mean, starting back to when we first saw those IG clips of him on the chopper or whatever he was on private jet, where he was looking kind of dazed, where there was an element of, that clip where they wake the kid up in whatever, and they're like, oh, what's going on? There was this tiny element of that. And I'm not saying that to diss Luka at all. What I'm saying is that he was legitimately uprooted.
Yeah.
And forget the basketball for a second. If you get uprooted from a place like Dallas, where you were the man, you were drafted there, and you one day thought your literal entire life was going to revolve around this location, and you get put into the middle of Laker Nation, it's going to take a minute to adjust. And it's not just going to be on the court. And so there's still a part of me that felt like even during his introductory presser, he was a little sheepish just because it was kind of like, yo, I still kind of can't believe I'm here. And like, what am I supposed to actually do? You know what I mean? Like, LeBron's still here. And so the basketball is one thing. But I do think there is an element of Luka's personality is going to take a while to kind of imprint on this team because the situation was so abrupt and it was so fast and it was so different, and I don't mind that, Greg. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind that at all.
No, I don't mind that he has that kind of thing going on, but I think Marcus is right. He is still looking for that moment, that what he is trying to show LA, like, hey, I'm here, I'm that guy. That's why he's taking so many deep threes, more step backs, but at the same time, like, he's still getting his legs underneath him. He's not at the point that we need him to be at yet.
Right. But what I'm saying is I don't think this is a Freddie Freeman situation. I don't think it's a boo-hooing for the old squad. I just think it's very legitimately on a human level, like, yo, brah, this is a lot. All right, it's gonna take a second.
Well, the concept of sports trades is sort of a bizarre one, right? Because think about it in any other walk of life. Like, what if somebody just came to you, Greg, and said, "Hey, tomorrow we're shipping you to New York. You got to be on a plane, take a physical, and you're going to start work on, next Tuesday." Like, it's just
at
weird.
Like WFAN, I'll be like,
sure.
Right. I don't know New York.
Exactly,
Right.
but like that's the thing is like it's such a bizarre thing, and as sports fans we've become accustomed to it, but it is just to your point. He went to the NBA Finals last year with the Mavericks. I think the intention was he was going to sign a Supermax deal. He was going to be a part of that franchise for the long term. He was going to be the centerpiece there. And now, you're right, he's ripped away from that, sent to a brand new city, a huge media market, and on top of it with, a huge overbearing personality and persona in LeBron James, in a franchise where even as great as you are, you're another guy in the lineage of Laker basketball. It's a lot to take in.
It's a totally different mindset, and I think that this is going to be a real test for Luka, and in a good way. This is what I thought when he came. I said, everybody needs to benefit for this to work. Does Luka probably need to have a little bit of a mindset change for his overall professional outlook? Maybe, if that's what you think. Do the Lakers probably need to get on their P's and Q's to make sure that a guy like this actually can get better and this all doesn't just kind of go for naught in some way where you just never really improve even though he's a top 5 player in the league? There is work to be done on both sides. So I'm not worried about Luka is what I'm saying. I just think these are very real parameters. And I knew when he said, man, I'm looking forward to the break after game one. I'm like, dude, you haven't played since Christmas. How are you looking forward to the break? Oh, it's probably as much of the off-court stuff as it is the on-court stuff, Greg.
See, you think that, so you're saying that you're not worried about Luka, and I agree. He'll be fine. He's going to be just how he is. But what about the Lakers? How do you feel about the Laker portion of it? Because Luka for this year is different than Luka for the next 10 years, right?
Sure.
In the Laker uniform. Do you think the Lakers can get to the point of what they wanted to be this year?
I don't know, and I think that's a big question for the franchise. And the question becomes, and we can talk about this a little bit more on the other side in terms of what I think they need to do. There are multiple things that need to be, that you can check off the list. For me, like not just one, and it's not just, hey, look at the jerseys. Multiple things need to happen in order to guarantee that Luka being here after next season as a free agent is the right thing to do. That's just me. Multiple things. Anyway, we'll talk about it on the other side. It's Mason in Ireland. I don't even know what show I'm on right now. It's Mason in Ireland, Clinton Marcus, ESPN 710. Afternoon. Okay, so Greg, we were talking about Luka and what's going on with the growing pains, if you will, of the team and his relationship with the franchise. We've got some sound here from Brian Windhorst about what that future looks like right now.
He just stumbled on to where the actual pressure is. I understand they got pressure because they got to play Denver this weekend or whatever. The pressure is on the organization between now and August 2nd to get Luka to sign that extension. That's where the pressure is, because Luka doesn't have his incentive to sign in He never said, I want to be a Laker. There's dozens of players over the years who make it crystal clear they want to be Lakers. Luka never said that. This hit him out of the blue. It cost him $100 million. He has got to see how they build this team around him and what they do in June and July for when August 2nd comes. The Lakers ain't winning a championship this year. Their big moment is whether or not Luka commits to the future so that they can properly try to do this again with a new face of the franchise.
People acted like that was crazy when I brought that up the first time as soon as he came, because everybody wants to say, oh, of course he wants to be a Laker. Oh, what are the chances he doesn't sign? I'm like, guys, this one's just a little different. And, Greg, I recognize that 9 times out of 10 in this situation, a guy's going to sign with the Lakers because
it's the Lakers.
Right, but first of all, that mentality is changing drastically in the NBA these days, as far as I'm concerned, ever since LeBron's been here. And secondly, this is just a little different. Luka was a big-time superstar, global one at that, before he ever got here. It's entirely possible that the way that he arrived affects his desire to stay as much as anything, as in he did not have a choice. Sure, he might want to test that free agent market. That would be reasonable to me. If it doesn't matter to him where he plays, again, he already got a team to the finals. I think this is real, Marcus.
Well, and I think Windhorst brings up a good point is at some point the Lakers have to show Luka what we can do for you.
Correct.
Right? It can't just be purple and gold, Hollywood, whatever, because you mentioned they were in the finals last year. The Lakers were not. and so what can you build for me? Because remember, he's 25 years old. He theoretically has a long basketball career still ahead of him. What can you do to make me feel comfortable here in Los Angeles, especially when you know LeBron's got a year, 2 years left? I mean, the clock is ticking on LeBron, not just in L.A., but in the NBA period. So, sure, it's nice being here in L.A. with this historic franchise. What are you going to do to help set me up for success?
So this is where we get to my countdown list of what the franchise needs to do. I can't remember how many numbers this is, but I'm going to start at the reverse order of what the importance is. Let him do whatever he wants in terms of his guys' situation, his trainers, his nutritionist, or whatever. I understand that getting him back in shape is important, but they have to be his people. Dallas booted his folks, and then they immediately started seeing a decline in production in what they believed was seriousness. So obviously that matters for who he is. Yes, health is a priority. Yes, conditioning is a priority. But I feel that if you tell a guy like Luka, no, they're doing it, you're doing it our way, you could sow some seeds of dissent that you don't necessarily need to do for it to work. Number 2, the LeBron situation has to be clarified a lot. Because otherwise, you're constantly playing yourself against each other, not even on the basketball court, but just mentally how you're locking into what are we actually doing here? Is LeBron just going to potentially walk away or retire? Which, again, would be his right. But if I'm Luka's camp, I need to know. That's important. The other thing, and I think this is as important as anything, is the J.J. Redick factor. What are you sure that he's the guy that you want to be with Luka even though he wasn't Luka's sort of pick. He played with Luka. He obviously knows what he's doing with this current crop of Lakers, but if for whatever reason Luka don't like him, well, then you've got a decision on your hands, Greg. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a couple different factors at play here simply because of the fact that he was traded that you've got to take seriously for the organization.
I mean, I didn't even think about if he doesn't like J.J. Redick. I assume that that's going to be okay. It's an assumption.
Yeah.
Granted, it's an assumption. But I also assume that he's going to resign. I think that's the most obvious thing that's going to happen is that he will resign. It's possible, but for the most part, you really don't not sign in Los Angeles. Only Dwight Howard didn't do it for the most part. So I think that's all going to happen.
On.
But he does.
Let me ask that
Yeah.
differently. Has a star of this caliber ever come to the team under these circumstances? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you kind of add up the different circumstances, it's not the same. That's why I don't think we can go with conventional wisdom.
It's not going to be like a Shaq or a Kobe
No.
or a Magic or something. Or
Kobe
Kareem.
was traded here
Maybe
on draft
Kareem.
day.
On draft day.
Maybe Kareem, but that was a different era of the game.
I feel like also Shaq always kind of wanted to be a Laker.
Sure.
You know, I mean, he wanted to be here for years.
Right. I just don't expect Luka to, now that he's in Los Angeles, now that he's the face of the franchise, because that he is. He is now going to be the face of the Los Angeles Lakers for the next 10 to 15 years.
Sure.
If his body holds up.
If he resigns. And that's the thing.
So he's most likely Occam's razor, right? You know that whole thing?
Yeah.
He is going to sign. That's the most likely scenario.
I will also say, for the Lakers to have made this move, right, to move Anthony Davis, to give up Max Christie, maybe this is naive, but you have to believe there is a bigger picture in mind. That you don't make a move like this for Luka without having some sort of plan to re-sign him, to keep him here. Because you've given up a lot of assets. You've given up a lot of what has built this team and made this team what it is. You don't do that and then just hope, hey, we're going to take you to Venice Beach and get you a Pink's hot dog and hope that's going to be good enough to keep you in Los Angeles.
We're not going to knock Venice Beach. All right?
I love it. It's the people's beach. I love it.
I'm just saying.
It's the people's beach.
The thing is, though, is that, like, I don't know that they got some big plan. The last time they had a big plan, they won the championship and then took everybody off the daggone team. You know what I mean? There's no guarantee.
There was reasons for all of those things.
Again, but the reasons didn't necessarily work out. Like,
they were stupid reasons, but there were reasons.
That's what I mean. There's no guarantee that this is going to fall in order when, the next trade you tried to make didn't even work. And I'm not trying to
But they tried to bring in a big man.
Yes, it was the smart decision, but
right.
it didn't work. And whether or not you want to say that that's their fault or not, it was still a mistake as it did not happen. And so, yes, you're right. But this is where you've got to prove as a front office that you know what you're doing and not just settling for, good reasons we tried. They didn't want it. It's like, bro, you've legitimately got something to lose here. And the reason why I like this, were I to be a Lakers fan, is that this shows you got to prove something here as a franchise. And if you are that good and you do have that much expertise and that much draw, well, this should be a non-issue. You know what I'm saying? If you're that confident in yourselves, well, then just execute what it is that you do. And you get to see the product, and it's going to be better. But that is a legitimate question. I think if you're a Laker fan looking at what's the team going to do because you've never been in this position.
So there's been a question for a long time. Is Rob Pelinka actually a good GM?
Right.
President of basketball operations, whatever you want to call it.
Sure, whatever the title is.
Whatever the title is. There's always been that question because was it LeBron and Clutch that was doing everything or was it Rob Pelinka? This is now Rob Pelinka's team.
Correct.
By bringing in Luka, you are now showing the entire league and all of Los Angeles whether or not you can do this. Whether you are a good GM that can bring in pieces to help and move forward for the rest of Luka's career here and even this year.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying, Greg. There's no longer anywhere, Marcus, where you can triangulate out, the coach is bad. Oh, LeBron's running things. Oh, there was whatever that went on. No.
This is you now.
This is y'all.
This is you. Yeah, as a Laker fan, though, Greg, what is your level of confidence that Rob Pelinka is a good general manager?
See, every move that Rob Pelinka has made that was not a LeBron or Clutch move has been a pretty decent move. Like, it always has turned out pretty well. This, I feel like, whether or not Nico Harrison just dropped it on his lap, it's still a Rob Pelinka move.
Yeah.
When Rob Pelinka built the team to get Anthony Davis, then bring in Danny Green, bring in JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, that, to me, is also Rob Pelinka moves. The ones that are non-moves are the Russell Westbrook move that destroyed everything.
Yeah.
And then they've been trying ever since. He also made the move, I believe, to bring in, like, the Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and D'Angelo Russell.
Sure.
That actually got them to the conference finals.
no, you're
Those
right.
were his moves that got them there, and then they just continued to blow it up because LeBron wants something
That's
else.
where this all comes together. You got to sort these problems out. Order of operations is important. Sidebar, saw Danny Green today over on the TV side. He gave me a nice nugget that I used on television. It's fantastic.
Very cool.
Danny Green's a nice dude.